My name is Gretchen Hunt, and I am the Executive Director at Emerge Kentucky. Emerge Kentucky is Kentucky's premier training program for Democratic women who want to run for office. We've been in existence since 2009, and we are so excited because this year we will be starting our 13th year of training women across this Commonwealth, from Pikeville to Paducah, to get ready to run in those elections. And if today and this week are not a good enough reminder of why we need good Democrats in the State House, in City Council, on school boards, in Congress, in the governor's office, everywhere, I don't know what is a better reminder, because we definitely know that our leadership is needed here today. And so I'm so excited to be joined by my Emerge sister and my colleague, Angela Evans, who is a proud graduate of Emerge Kentucky. She served as councilwoman for the 6th District in Lexington, Fayette County, and comes to us with a great deal of expertise and wisdom. And Angela, I'm just so excited that you are joining us here today for our Why Emerge conversations, where we dig in deeper to our incredible alumna network and hear from you. And so to start it off, I just want to ask you to introduce yourself briefly and share anything you'd like to share today about anything good and new going on in your life.
Oh gosh, new going on. Well, first of all, yes, you did a great introduction. I'm Angela Evans, born and raised in Lexington. I believe I graduated from Emerge in 2013, I think 2013 or 14. I've lost count. But yeah, it was something that I'd heard about, and finally stars aligned and applied and got accepted. And there's a lot of history after that, but I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, and for those of you who are watching, will watch later. Yes, I'm glad to be back home. For those of you who don't know, I have been gone. I went to Princeton to get my master's, but I am bringing the orange background back. So I hope people appreciate that, because it's the first time that I've used it. So I'm like, oh, okay, this was a year of my life with COVID on council, so it's kind of weird to see it. So I'm happy to bring that back.
Super. So starting off, you told us you're from Lexington. We know you served in council. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit more later on in this conversation. But tell me a bit about your origin story as a leader. We know that the research says that women need to be asked to run for office 7 times. I don't know if that's the magic number. It's also the magic number of 7 touches to persuade a voter. There may be something that goes on with our brains that clicks at a certain point. But we know that there are so many systemic barriers, and even more so for women of color and Black women who may not see themselves as represented in seats of power, although that is changing with our Vice President Kamala Harris and many prominent women who are stepping into their power and taking their well-deserved seats at the table. But tell me about you as a little girl, or when you had that spark of deciding that you wanted to run for office, or that you wanted to be serving in office.
Yeah, gosh. Well, as a child, I think my mother said a few times I was 3 going on 30. So, but I was just always that kid, that student that took some kind of leadership role. I just felt like that I had a responsibility, a duty to try and make things better. I was always on student council. That was always a given. I did run for, I think, senior class president in high school, but that was just always in me. There was always this, like I said, duty to not necessarily lead, but to be involved. And if leadership happened, then that was great. I've always been opinionated, so I've always had, something to share. But I think a lot of that is really due to the women that I grew up with, that my mentors. My mother was the president of the Fayette County Education Association. I remember that like being a headline in the news. So that was always pretty impressive. But just all the women that I was around, they were always in leadership positions and always running things, whether it was in, the sorority that I'm now a member of, Delta Sigma Theta, or again in the education system, or even in church. I it, women were always involved somehow, and so I just always felt that need to be involved, and even in church, even though it was a Southern Baptist church, there was still always that duty to be involved in your community. We always did feed the city, Thanksgiving, things like that. There was a group for teenage girls about missions, which that I took that and ran with it too. So I've always seen a role for women in everything that I've been a part of. So it's just been ingrained in me from day one. So I don't think there's anything that I had a moment of, oh yes, I want to be a leader. It's just always that unspoken expectation, which in a good way, that it's possible. I've always seen women in leadership roles. So I never saw anything different. So
I love that. I love that it's the unspoken expectation. I absolutely love the way that you've captured that, and you've reiterated that, women are leading already. Women are already leaders in churches, in sororities, in education. We see, women dominating fields of education right now in healthcare, and are on the front lines of this pandemic and recovery. Women have always been leaders, but how great that you had that sense and reflected back to you. And kudos to your mom for emulating that and being in the paper, because those things really matter. And I know that when you were in the paper, that there are probably girls out there who said, I know that's my councilwoman, and start envisioning their future, which is really what we always say at Emerge, that we lift as we climb. This is not just about individuals seeking power. It's about all the women that will come behind us, all the women have pushed us forward. And you've just described that so well. And also the role of, sororities and churches in the Black community, which have been such institutions. Oftentimes when people maybe couldn't have seats of power elsewhere, they establish power in community in those important places. We're definitely recruiting in all those places as we look at class of 2022.
okay.
So
yeah, and I will say, I don't want to interrupt or go off too
go
far,
ahead.
but that's something else, about leadership that I think we need to continue to reiterate that, although we want women to run for office, it doesn't always have to be, president. It can be, and this is the council member coming out of me, it can be for your neighborhood association board. It can be things like that. It can be for the PTA. There are all kinds of ways that you can serve, but that still have a sense of an election, of a campaign involved in it. So yeah, I don't want people to think, oh, Emerge, I have to run for, statewide office, which is great, if that happens. But there's so many ways and so many levels to serve that, right in your own community, like say, down to your neighborhood. So I just think that's so important for people to understand and realize that it's women serving on any and every level.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because, at Emerge, we train and we say, you do have to commit to run for something in 5 years.
Yeah.
But it can be at any level. And we know that there's strategy involved in that. Some people,
Exactly.
you look at what your values are, what issues you care about, where that aligns, and where you can have impact and where you can win. And we are, building back as Democrats in this state to regain power. And a lot of times that is starting with local communities, and local communities are where so much happens. So talk to me about a little bit about what you learned in Emerge that helped propel you, and a little bit about your campaign and your race for city council.
Oh gosh.
I know it's been a few years, but if you can think of any of your Emerge memories during training that stuck with you.
Well, the one that always comes up, and it's the one that everyone's always terrified about, was the fundraising day. That's always the, wait a minute, okay, fine, I can start with my circle. What do you mean I have to call people for money? What do you mean someone's going to give me $100? What do you mean somebody's going to give me $1,000? Like, I can't even comprehend that. How big is this circle going to have to be? Like, I remember just being overwhelmed and thinking that's such a foreign concept to me, that who's going to do that and how's that going to happen? Um, but yeah, the fundraising was a big part of what was most unknown to me. That was a huge unknown, but and that was the big takeaway. Um, because at the time I was in, I was a state government employee, and it's like I don't know people, or the people I know can't write $1,000 check, So it was like, do you know what my salary is? Like I can't
Right.
fund this on my own. So that was a big issue for me. So just kind of learning how that process goes was very a little more comforting. It was still scary. Like those first phone calls, and even the 100th phone call was still nerve-wracking, but just kind of having that explained and having the practice, that we do to get used to that, or at least introduce you to making a phone call asking for some money, uh, was really one of the big moments that I remember that was like, oh, okay, this is how it operates. Still scary as I'll get out, but okay, I don't have to I'm not expected to have $50,000 on hand.
Right. Because, not a lot of people do, and especially newcomers, right? Or young women, or people who have small kids or have other caregiving. Most people are working and running when they run for office. They don't have the ability to say I'm independently wealthy or I'm retired. And so that's a real issue that people say, I can't self-fund, but how can I do it? And you've displayed, and you did it. Right. So tell us a little bit about your campaign and how that went, and your success.
Well, it went well. I won. So yeah, my campaign, we always talk about the kitchen table, and you always have to have your own set of supporters. And I've said this before, and I will, say it probably until the day I die. And not just because we're a democratic organization, but again, my role models were women who were also teachers in public schools. So I said, yeah, you get a group of teachers together, they get stuff done. And that's really kind of what happened. Um, and there were, these were people that have known me since I was born. So, you've got the mother aspects going too. But, I think it's just proof that women know how to get stuff done. And, I reached out to a former council member, Andrea James. We're talking about, a manager, and kind of, the things that I knew that were in that notebook that I didn't really get a chance to review too much. But, I knew I needed someone to help me organize, this team of workers that I knew I had on hand. And I know that person shouldn't be me. That was something I also learned from Emerge. And so yeah, I reached out to Andrea James actually, and she got me connected with someone who's fabulous, Sarah Brown. And I think you always have to have a manager that you click with, and we did, and it was kind of go time from there. And it was, yeah, just a lot of just people who support me, who know me, who love me, and that's how it started. And we just kind of looked at the area and did those basic steps that Emerge teaches about the field work, and getting numbers. But how I decided to run, we'll backtrack on that. Which something I also tell women in Emerge, that once it's announced that you're in Emerge or even interested, people will find you. Like, you will think you've got 5 years to run, but that's kind of what happened to me. Again, I was in state government. You're not allowed to run for anything partisan. So I was like, well, sure, that weeds out all kinds of stuff. And I just recently graduated from Emerge, and someone came and found me. Like, you just graduated from Emerge, so people know you're interested in running for office. And I'm like, yeah, like your council member just decided they're not running again. You need to think about running for that. And I thought about council maybe once or twice in, the time I've lived, in my house. But again, I never seriously considered that. And, now I'm just in this groove of, okay, what might I run for, having just graduated from Emerge? And then things just kind of happen. And I'm like, well, crap, yeah, this is the opportunity. Okay. Okay. I have had some gripes about, city stuff periodically, but yeah. And then I just, looked at some of it's probably peer pressure, because I'm like, how am I going to turn down, an open seat, which I knew talking and going through Emerge, I was like, that's what I would want for me.
Yep.
So there are some things that I had in mind of how I would want the situation to happen, and it's there. And you might get a kick in the pants from some people if you don't take the opportunity.
Right.
And so yeah, so that's how it happened. And I was still scared as scared to be. Was contemplating it probably much longer than I know my mother wanted me to. It's kind of just like, do it already, stop thinking about it. And again, got a team together that was my team, and we went from there. And yeah, I'd
And
say we rocked it.
you did,
Yeah.
you won and you served. So what is maybe one of the things that you relished most about what you did on your on council? Because I know it's a lot of hard work that, I remember talking to a politician said, the worst thing that can happen when I ran, and I came up short the first time, but there's always another run in any of us. I remember him telling me, what's the worst thing that can happen? You can win and then you have to serve, right? So we know that
Right.
serving is also hard work, and Emerge trains you to run and win. Serving, then you call on other leaders and mentors and peers. But what's something that you're really proud of that you did on council?
Oh gosh, there are a few different things. And it's not actually something that I did, but it's just one of those moments like, okay, this is the role model part, kind of coming full circle, like you said, that I saw other women, and maybe I am that person for other girls. It was right after the women's, shortly after the Women's March, I guess the first one, and I had a group of a Girl Scout troop come visit. They were in my district, and I think a couple of their mothers were high school friends, and they, my aide had talked to them kind of, and they had questions prepared and things like that. And I really like talking to kids. That's always a fun part, in trying to help them understand, a little bit of government, what they can't understand. Um, but I walked into the room that they were in, and we were going to do a Q&A before council. And I walked in, and someone was like, yeah, do you know who that is? And they're like, Angela Evans. And it was just like, yeah, my heart just melted there. I'm like, these little girls know who I am. And that's just, not an ego thing. It's just like, oh, okay, this is kind of what this is about. This is what representation means. Because those were little girls in all kinds of different shades and different colors and different backgrounds, I'm sure. But yeah, that was I'm like, okay, this is a role model moment. Like and it was something that, just one of those fabulous moments. And I'm like, okay, it was one of the highlights. But things I did on council, like for my district, I think a lot of my work for my district and what I ran on was just connecting people to government. Just the regular person calling and saying, look, trash wasn't collected, or, I'm having this problem, or, the sidewalk is always an issue, and then just explaining what's going on, the whole recycling, canceling the recycling for a while, really explaining, how international issues trickle down to the local level. But it truly was an international problem that, when China says we're increasing the level of, your purity for recycling for paper, that completely trickled down through the federal and to the local level. Like, yes, that means we can't do it. And this is how government is connected. And this is why it's important uh, to vote for, you know, whoever you think is going to help, you know, you in your daily life. You know, this is why your federal representation is important. This is why your state representation is important. You know, people are a big issue for me. I've got a lot of roads, a lot of state roads in my district, and you know, the medians don't get mowed.
Mhm.
um, that's state money. Like, this is why it's important to know who's running the state. You want more state money trickled down? Well, that's a state road. That means there needs to be more money in the transportation, uh, you know, fund it dedicated to maintaining roads. This is why you need to know who your state representative is, your state senator, and who all the other ones are, because they're in charge of that money. Because they're not driving by that median every day with overgrown grass. Yeah, it doesn't look pretty. You know, you feel like it's neglecting your neighborhood is being neglected, your part of town. Well, and that's what needs to get relayed. And I tried to do that as much as I could. And go to, and I'm talking a lot, I know, I'm
No,
sorry,
no,
but you know,
no,
probably,
no.
you know, but
Yeah.
yeah, but I'd probably say my biggest accomplishment was making sure that the Liberty Road expansion not only got money, got funded, you know, and it's at levels, but it got bumped up in time.
Mhm.
So that was, you know, one of the things, like, okay, what have I complained about on the local level, or, you know, just what have I had an issue about? It's not like I called my council member and said, oh, Liberty Road needs a sidewalk, or why did you all stop at, you know, where you did? Uh, but no, I remember trying to walk to Hamburg one day and nearly broke my ankle. So I was like, this is an issue. But Liberty Road is a state road. So yeah, I went back in full, you know, blown, basically campaign mode.
Mhm.
And, you know, once I got in office, you know, I'm putting flyers in people's doors in that neighborhood, because it's part of my neighborhood too, obviously. But like, this is what you need to do. You need to call your state representatives and your state senator. This is a road you drive on every day. Yes, we all know that it's got a traffic issue. You know, the Department of Transportation knows that it's an issue, but they can only do so much. So yeah, we need to do this collectively. So getting initial getting more funding for that, making it known to all of this Lexington city, or, you know, representatives in Frankfurt, letting them know that this is, yeah, it's over here in this area. But guess what? All of your constituents come to Hamburg. All of them are driving on this road at some point, so you need to be concerned about it as well. So yeah, I think making that a big priority. We've got a design for it, and it probably won't be, you know, government moves slowly, but you know, while I was there, it was moving forward, and I think I helped push it forward with my own advocacy, but you know, getting the advocacy of the citizens involved too.
I love that. I mean, it shows that you're a servant leader, that you are about empowering your constituents to be active voices, right? That you are a good community organizer. Like our former President Barack Obama talked about, you know, politics is a lot of good organizing, and that you use your campaign skills and you put them to work in how you served as a councilwoman. So you left that role to pursue education at, you know, a little university in the Northeast. So you went up to Princeton. Very notable. You know, you are a constant learner and you are gathering more information, and you came back home, which we are thrilled about, because you're gathering all that good wisdom and looking here at Kentucky. So I have to ask, because I'd love to know. So what and when are you running the next time? Or what do you think about that? We have to ask each other, right?
Well, this is true. Yeah, no, I will say, like I said before, you know, leadership is something just inherently in me. Oh, okay, sorry. Oh, the heavens, my my light switch just flickered.
It's not just me asking. It's not just me asking, Angela.
Oh, okay. But yeah, no, I've public service will always be a part of me. I don't know what shape that will take. And, what I always tell people is, campaigning and running for office is always about timing. Um, but I'm not closed off to running for, an office that is the right fit. But certainly the timing has to be right. But I've also said that there are plenty of ways that people can serve. So we'll have to
Well,
see what happens. So
that is exciting. I didn't plan for the
that's a good politician
lights to
answer.
flash.
Oh,
That was not and we thank you for your public service and all that you've done, and you've been such a good representative of Emerge, as our whole network is. At this point we have over 274 alums across the state trained, and it really is phenomenal to think about the impact of all of the women out there, whether or not they've run and won yet, but are serving in a lot of ways. And even right now, a lot of Emerge sisters are, we have 43 serving in office right now. A number of them will be up on the ballot in 2022, but we have even more who are serving at the local and state level and boards and commissions. We have people who are getting appointed constantly. So we also have a record number of Emerge women right now who are serving at all levels of party leadership within the Democratic Party. So you're right, there are a lot of ways to serve. And though we train women to run for office, we also know that changing the face of politics in Kentucky means serving in a lot of different roles. So I want to thank you for joining us today. And then I want to take a minute just to share with our audience too, that if you've been as inspired as I am by Angela, who is, a friend, a colleague, an Emerge sister, and just somebody that I've looked up to and will be following in her political career for time to come. If you've been inspired by this, take a peek at Emerge. So visit our website, www.emergeky.org. Consider supporting us with your time, talent, and treasure. If you want to become a monthly sustainer, we are always looking for grassroots supporters who help empower the work that we are doing. But we're also in the middle of recruitment season for the class of 2022. So be sure to check that out. You can recommend a woman for Emerge. You can apply yourself. Our application is live and it's out there. You can reach out to us for more information. But we just want to let the women and the girls hopefully listening into this broadcast know that that this is your time, and this is your time to take your seat at the table. And there may never be a perfect time to do it, although timing is important and the seat is important, but we urge you to take that first brave step and recognize your own power and start your journey towards running for public office. So Angela, thank you so much for joining us today.
Can I say one last thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Just
absolutely.
To reiterate that, because I really, I tell you, I probably would not have run for office had it not been for Emerge. And, I'm one of those, I like to play it safe, attorney by trade, we're not big risk takers, that. But going through Emerge really did help me feel comfortable, more comfortable, and knowing what the game plan is, how things work. So I will, things, organizations have ups and downs, and people are like, oh, well, that's not for me, or maybe I don't want to be focused, party wise or something. But the tools that I gained, the knowledge that I gained from Emerge, and the support and the encouragement, I think that was really the biggest thing, was the encouragement to not just apply, because that encouragement was there too, even though I was already interested. But it was really just the support within, and the support that my classmates gave each other. Because there are women, I couldn't fathom some of the stories women shared about, well, I can't do this, or how timid some women were, or, the family support that they did not have. I was blown away by, some of them saying, well, my husband doesn't want me to do this, or he's not going to be supportive, or, my parents aren't going to be supportive. So, but knowing that you had that group of women there who were going to support you regardless of, anybody else in your world was priceless, and I knew I had support. But even being able to encourage another woman who didn't have that was so made me feel better about the whole program. And because everyone doesn't have that, and some of us take it for granted. And there are women just waiting to be asked. There are women just waiting to be supported, and Emerges is a way for all of those women to come together. So I can't thank Emerge enough for what it did and giving me that support and encouragement throughout what I've done. So, okay, I'll stop talking.
No, that was a perfect closing. And thank you again for joining us today. Excited to see your star keep rising. We're so glad you're back in the bluegrass, and just stay well in the midst of all that's going on. And thank you again for joining us today. So we'll sign off now, and everybody stay well, and we'll see you soon.